perfectly fine. All of a sudden, I get nervous from an interview.
You're like, oh no, the camera's on. What am I supposed to do? Yesterday when we were on the tour, we were talking around like transparency, and I started to think about what you were saying about like you went to the vitamin shop and you were like, man, I started picking up random competitors' bottles, and you turn the labels around, you're like, wow, everybody's doing full transparent things now. You're seeing them actually embrace something that you started. I mean, how many years ago did you?
2001.
2001.
Totally no proprietary blend.
And when you were saying like full transparent labels, no proprietary blends, like that wasn't like common language in the industry, right? That wasn't like something that nowadays everybody puts that on their like 5 bullet points of their marketing plan. Full disclosure labels. That's what they always say. You know what I mean? So it's, but back then that wasn't even something that was in the lingo, right?
No, it wasn't. I mean, I didn't even understand it. I was promoting proprietary blends as a way to protect my formulas because I thought I worked hard on them. So it was kind of a surprise to me. And, in 2001, when we made that changeover, we pretty much coined the phrase no proprietary blends. Nobody had ever done it before. And we were made fun of for years and years and years. There's no way you can do that. It's just a marketing thing. You're just trying to look better than other companies. You can't really put all your dosages on there. It's too expensive. Somebody's going to copy you. All those excuses came up, and we were attacked for years and years and years. And we just kept doing it and doing it. And then the industry started to do it too, which is really cool. When I told you that story, that was only a few weeks ago. We've all seen the whole industry change over the last 5 or 6 years. But that was really cool because I was helping a kid out in a vitamin shop who didn't know what to pick out on the shelf. So as I started to go through the products, I was like, damn, I can't tell the no proprietary blend story here. Every single product that I picked up was, full dosage, and almost all full dosage, really good products, and fully disclosed. So it was a really cool thing. It wasn't something where I looked at it and said, oh, damn, what am I going to do next for marketing? Yeah. Because that was never a marketing pitch for us. And people attack me on that too. They say, oh, this whole proprietary blend stuff is all marketing. No, it's not marketing. And you know as good as I do. You can put a company out there and you can start to talk about quality and transparency and no prop blends. That's not going to get you any good customer acquisition. Yeah. That's not bringing you a customer in. What it does do is when the customer's in and knows you, it's customer retention that helps you. So you keep that customer because you're creating a good product. So anybody who's really, really good at marketing is going to acquire a lot of customers. Is that customer going to stay with them long term? That's going to depend on not just how well they can keep pushing BS out and marketing out. It's how well the product is. Is a person getting a result from that product week after week, month after month, year after year, and that's the important thing. And that's what this whole concept of no prop blends is: third-party testing, full transparency and labels, full therapeutic dosages. It's not the marketing pitch of our company. It's who we are as a company. It's the ethics of the company. It's the backbone of the company. So each of these are like legs that we stand on. Yeah. And as we create more and more legs that hold us up, we become stronger as a company. But none of those are bringing us customers.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, as you pointed out, I mean, that's usually a marketing bullet point for a lot of people, where you're saying, this is a part of our deep culture. This has been a part of us for going on 20 years at this point. And this is honestly like what is above our products as well, because it's more of like a cultural kind of ethos part of your brand, where a lot of people, they build their brands off of maybe trying to look cool, or maybe they're trying to, have a certain fragmentation of the market, like, keto brands or something like that. That's where they build the products that are great, and then they build kind of the brand off of that, where your brand also has to do with just like the quality and the actual way that you formulate the product, the way you test the product, the way that it's set up from labeling, in terms of you're mentioning about just how you also include like some of the sweetener levels and things that's not normal in the industry. Like, you're taking the transparency, full transparent label type of aspect, but also going way deeper than a lot of people are doing. And I think that's unique because if they spend the time to get to know NutraBio, I think they can realize that you're not full of shit. This isn't like something that you're just kind of doing because you think well, it's going to sell some bottles. This is like, you're telling me the story yesterday around how back when you kind of first started, I'm guessing it's probably in the 90s at times, 96, where you changed over things. You basically dumped out $250,000 worth of product at the time. That was a lot of product, to you at the time. And you were like, this isn't right. What's happening in my brand is not right. I don't feel like things are going in the direction that I would like them to go, because at that time you're still doing contract manufacturing, correct?
We were using
contract. And you basically dumped all that stuff out and said, this isn't me. This isn't what I'm about. Right. And a lot of people wouldn't do that. I think that is something that's like super special to the brand, because if you're willing to do that when it was a big deal, you would do that still today if something happened where, like, something didn't test out right, or something, something didn't follow the processes correctly. You wouldn't be like, well, we could just slide it under the table. You're going to tear it all down and rebuild it back to the level you expect.
We did a couple of years ago. We threw out about $300,000 worth of pre-workout that didn't come out properly, and it had something to do with citrulline and citrulline malate and the scam going on there, and we pulled it off the market. And by the time we could prove stuff out, we could have just reformulated early and shipped it back out and played the games and said, all right, let's not even mention anything that's in the marketplace, and let's just sell this out. We didn't. We withdrew it all from the market, and we put it with video of it in the back, just destroying literally $300,000 worth of pre-workout that I didn't think was for the market. But back then, taking that product and throwing it in the dumps and destroying it wasn't a story. It was just what we did. It was like 15 years later, like, holy shit, that's part of our story that we did that. And everybody talks about that now like it was, we had planned that all out. We didn't. We didn't even think about talking about that for over a dozen years. And then we looked back on our history and said, wow, it was really something amazing that we did, that we really just made a claim in this industry of who we are and what we were going and what we're going to do.
I mean, it's just speaks to like the authenticity of you and the brand in which you built. You know what I mean? I think that those stories have a lot of weight when they're cumulative to consistent behavior over time. Now, if somebody does that out of the blue and then they do a bunch of like erratic behaviors over the next 10 years, that doesn't mean too much. But if you're consistently, kind of adding to that and saying, this is just the way that I am, this isn't special, this is just the level in which I expect and constantly kind of expect higher over the years, it's kind of just authentic to the story in which you're trying to build. And it shows in terms of like how long you've been in the business, and you're growing. Like when we talk about legacy, like sports nutrition brands, anybody, I kind of consider like anybody that's been in the market probably more than 10 years at this point is probably a legacy brand. I know in a lot of other kind of categories, that's still probably, just a normal or emerging brand still. But in our space, like the life cycles are so short that 10 years is a lot now. Like most of the brands have been created in the last 4 or 5 years. And you are not only just surviving, you're thriving still, you're growing, right? I mean, you've grown
We've grown every single year for the last 24 years now.
Where you have other brands that were created around the same time as you, either they're out of business or they are struggling real bad right now, or you're just trying to figure out where are they at. You were asking me a question about a few of them. You're like, have you heard anything about these guys? Because you can't really find anything about them, even though they were one time, these massive figurehead brands in our space.
You and Buckeye make fun of us because we have a marketing department. Well, we do now, but for 20 some odd years, we really didn't do advertising, marketing. Our social media really wasn't anything. It was all like old school word of mouth, people telling people. And we were direct to consumer all those years, and that's how we grew the business. We weren't looking to be the biggest, flashiest name out there. We weren't looking to be the cool brand. We sat in the background. We did our thing year after year after year, and we acquired new customers. And once they became part of us, they saw the passion for what we did, and they don't leave. I mean, we have customer retention going back to the day we started. I have customers that were still with us now that were with us 24 years ago. And I told you a story yesterday. A customer posted last year a picture of all his protein containers, literally going back 20 years. He saved them in his garage. And I wanted to get them because I don't even have those labels. It literally was like 5 feet high and 10 feet wide of 20 years of protein containers of all the labels we did. I have customers going back the whole time because they see the authenticity. If it's just a marketing campaign, everybody sees through it. But if it's who you are and it's what you do, I got in this for the passion. I love martial arts. I love training. It was my whole life. I started supplements for that, and I just took what I did for myself and brought it in here. And that's why I destroyed the product, because when I launched the company, it was all people I knew. It was all my karate students, and karate students or owners at other karate schools that trusted me and bought into this whole concept of bringing supplements out into their training. And then all of a sudden I looked and I said, my product was pure shit, you know? I mean, the ingredients, there was nothing in this product. And how do I go look somebody in the eye, you know, second generation, third generation student of mine, that I'm just like trying to give them garbage.
Yeah.
And that was hurtful. It was hurtful. And, you know, that's why we made that change back then. And then we just keep continuing to push the envelope on it. We started with just no proprietary blends, then full therapeutic dosages. Then eventually we went to taking our non-actives, all of our excipients, so all the flavoring and the coloring and all that is listed on the label with the exact dosage. So we try and become as transparent as we can so a consumer looks at it and knows what's in the product. Now, not every consumer knows the active ingredient, how much should be in there, but it's there if you want to. We then developed what we do with proteins by listing the active, every one of the different types of protein that we use, how much of each of those source proteins, and how much complete protein is coming from that. So you can actually calculate to make sure that the product is not protein spiked right on the label. We then went from there to back then we got rid of all the excipients and all the fillers to keep that as a very clean label. Then we started doing third-party testing and publishing that third-party testing. So we're always trying to push the envelope on how much more transparent, more honest we could be, how we can ensure higher and higher in quality, because that's a test for us. If I'm going to put up a third-party test of my protein today, then I got to make sure I manufacture it in a way that it's going to pass that test. So all these requirements we put on ourselves push us, to making a better and a better and a better product. And it's been going on like that for 24 years now.
There's a discussion that's kind of been kicked up lately around the kind of sports nutrition professional community around consumers asking questions to brands around like who manufactures your product. Mm-hmm. And I have been super positive to that movement of consumers asking more questions. And what has been kind of the counter argument from a lot of the industry is that if they have that information, what would they even be able to do with it? They're not going to understand it. Mm-hmm. And I think a point that you were kind of bringing up and kind of reinforces what I always kind of mention is that it's not necessarily that all consumers are going to know what to do with that information. Just knowing who the contract manufacturer doesn't necessarily make a difference to the vast majority of consumers, or maybe even a step further, if they knew every single ingredient supplier that they use or the purity levels of things, like, does that actually help the majority of consumers? Probably not. But what I think it does more than anything is that if you're willing to put all your cards on the table and you're willing to be extremely exposed for anybody, even the one or two people that know everything better than you do about these items that you're putting in your product, if you're willing to put all that information out there, it provides a level of trust with the consumer, because they're like, if they put all their cards out on the table, I know everything that even if they're good or bad, and if I ask them about something that is bad, and they have a response that, hey, we're looking to fix this, we're really looking to source better materials, whatever it is. I think that that's where the value is. It's not necessarily that they want to look into things or they're going to do their due diligence on all the legal proceedings of these people or that people. I think it's a matter of, if you're willing to give up all the information to somebody and you're not scared to do that, it probably provides an assurance with the customer, because they're like, I feel comfortable working with somebody that's willing to put all their cards on the table. I'm willing to buy a product from them because I know that, if it's truthful what they're putting out there and somebody's able to validate those things, even if they're doing something wrong, if they're willing to put the information out there, they're also probably mature enough to have conversations with consumers when there's something that maybe comes up that is less than approved of the market. And I don't know what you think about that, but I kind of have gotten to a few conversations with people about that point around the contract manufacturing side, and they haven't really thought past that. But I always bring it back to, it's the more transparent you are as anybody, a human being, a brand, whatever, the more trust you have with another person you're communicating to. I don't think it has anything to do with like the details behind it. It's more
consumers don't know. Let me say, consumers don't know all the dosages, and they're not going to look it up. But we all know that concept of 10% of the consumers influence the rest of it. And those are those guys who are doing podcasts and blogs and all, and they are going to look that a lot.
Yeah.
And that does influence other people. As far as contract manufacturers, I've been a proponent of contract manufacturers stepping out of their shell and starting to market and advertise themselves. Nobody knows them. So if we start putting that on the label, the consumer is going to say, I don't know who the hell that is. But if these top 10 manufacturers start marketing, start showing what they do, start putting their certifications and everything that they do online and build up their brand, well, they're opening themselves up too. Because all they need is the FDA to pop in one time and get on their ass about something and everybody will know about it. But if they are clean and they do it the right way, now consumers can look and will know who they are. So I give this example in the tequila industry, which, I'm a big proponent of tequila. And I have over 4,000 bottles of tequila in a collection. So I love this whole concept. There are 20-some hundred brands of tequila. There's like 125 actual manufacturers, distillers. But by law, they have to put the license number of the distillery on the bottle. So who cares? But the consumer does find out because the consumer knows that this distillery is good, this distillery is bad. They see a new brand and we hear it all the time. Oh, I hate that place. Or one brand comes up and all of a sudden they come up and it's a totally different brand, but they know where it's made. It's automatically great and people follow it. And I think that I don't want the government to do that. I'm against government regulation, but I think some of these great contract manufacturers should step up and promote the shit out of themselves, show who they are. So consumers want to know that a product is made in that factory because they know that it's made in that factory. It's good. The brand has to, create their own formulas, do their own branding. So just because it's in that manufacturer doesn't mean that the product's going to do well or it's good or it's properly formulated. That's the brand's responsibility. But now okay, XYZ company manufactured this new brand. Let me give it a try. I think that would be great in this industry.
No, and I'm 100% on board with that. I mean, I've been advocating that on my side, and I've tried to highlight a few of them on my channel over the times. And I think, ingredient suppliers, I think anybody in the industry that has stayed in the shadows and are confident in their business as good, good business people and have a great ethics and morals behind their business should be out there loudly talking about everything. Right. They should be out there promoting themselves.
In ingredients, everybody's looking for Creapure. Or KSM with ashwagandha. So consumers start to understand ingredient names and the companies that are behind those ingredients and start looking for those particular ingredients. Why not do it with the contract manufacturer? Why not bring it all together where people start to understand more of the ingredients because those companies are pushing it and the contract manufacturers are proud of what they're doing and the brands are proud of what they're doing. It just all pushes this industry further and further down the road toward a more honest and transparent industry. And we all know that the media will jump on us no matter what. One small mistake in this industry and the media is all over us, and then it takes us years to come back from that. So, as brand owners, we all kind of have that responsibility. Responsibility number one is to our company. We've got to grow our company. We've got to provide for the people who work for us, so part of our team and part of our family. But we also have to have this percentage that's like altruistic toward the industry itself. We all have to push the industry so that it's better a year from now. It's better 5 years. It's better 6 years. It can't decline. So we all have that responsibility. It's a rising tide brings up all boats. So we're competing against each other too, but why not compete for a bigger industry? So that's happening a lot these days. A lot of companies are doing that, and I think that's great.
Yeah, and I think that the more good actors in the system, the better we all, and I think that that's the movement that seems to be happening lately in a more outside vocal stance. Myself and a bunch of other guys and you, and I think everybody has realized, okay, we need to get on our soapbox a little bit more. We need to start putting really good information out there because people are interested in the industry. The industry as a whole, it's not like going out and selling paper clips. It's a fun place to go, especially if the first time you've ever been kind of introduced to a sports nutritionist through an Arnold Classic or a fitness expo. It looks like people are having a hell of a time. You know what I mean? You're like, I'd love to be in that industry. So with now a lot of the low barriers of entry and everything happening, there is the opportunity for a lot of people to come into the sports nutrition market, create a product, create a brand, but there's not a lot of information, or at least until very recently, there hasn't been a lot of really good information for people to attach themselves to, learn from, be able to know what are the good and bad things I need to be considering when I'm starting my brand. Because if you don't know any of the rules of the game and you're just starting a business, you're going to be rogue and do whatever you want. And that's what ends up eroding things like, price integrity because of the category. You have a bunch of people launching pre-workouts and then they can't sell them, so eventually the inventory ages and they have to get their money back, so they drop it down to $5 or whatever it is. So it's like you're creating these like little bad actors that are kind of lowering.
But I think that's happening. I mean, a lot of brands are out there talking, and we talk. I do it all the time. I'm not attacking other brands. I'm not attacking the industry. I'm attacking maybe procedures and policies in the industry that are bad, that have to be cleaned up for the industry. But I don't go out there and point fingers at stuff. I want the industry to grow. And I think something that's happened over the last 3 to 4 years is like you, Ryan Buckeye, Mike over at Price Plow, Matt Week, all these people are now doing podcasts in the industry, which is really cool because you're talking to different owners in the industry, contract manufacturers, different brands, and all this stuff that's been hidden all these years is all coming out in the open. And I guess we're finding out a lot of brand owners will share more information about what they do and who they are and what their company's about. And we were talking about this yesterday. It's something you said is a reason why you got into doing your podcast. And I think that's important for the industry because we always had this very, in the shadows. Nobody wants to tell anybody what they're doing. It's top secret. And it's not really.
Yeah.
The more everybody works together, the more we find out about what other companies are doing behind the scenes. Not everybody's going to tell every secret.
Yeah.
But this openness that's out there, and we can create that openness with brand owners, with contract manufacturers, with marketing people, with the ingredient companies. It just brings everything out to light and just pushes this industry in a better direction.
Because of the mass media always going towards the negative for whatever reason, they're trying to sell advertising, so it's good for clicks, it's good for whatever it is. They're going to obviously not look for the positive stories in a lot of these cases. Like how many great things have supplements done to people with their health and trying to provide them. You know what I mean? Like they don't go after those stories because that's harder for them to sell.
Yeah. Who wants to hear that?
But I think that because of that, a lot of people then just perceive the industry in a negative sense. And we agree, like there's way more good actors and good brands and good manufacturers and good, even like we were making the comment the other day around proprietary blends. Mm-hmm. When proprietary blends were in their heyday, and you were talking about even when you were doing the contract manufacturing at the time and why you dumped the product, and there was a lot of like pixie dust, shady stuff. Like, you test all the top products at that time. Mm-hmm. Vast majority of them weren't actually what
I tested 300 at the time, and all 300 of them were just like mine. They were garbage. And what I was saying yesterday is, even though I'm attacking proprietary blends, there's a lot of good companies now that still use them, but they have real products. It's just the way the industry is.
And I think that's not and that's kind of where I was going with that point, was around the idea of like even people that are doing proprietary blends, though it might have a bad name and you choose not to because that's not appropriate for your brand. Vast majority of even the people using proprietary blends are not the bad actors in the sense of like what we could see 10, 15 years ago. There's a lot more people that are still good. They're still great products, but not to the level of what you would want to put in your brand. But it's, because you're willing to just put all your cards on the table and say, here is the ingredients that are in my product. And, if you wanted to dig into this super deep, you could probably get down to my cost of goods if you wanted to.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
That's fine. I don't care. That's not the point of this whole, game, where there are bad actors trying to hide certain things, but I think more people are not doing that.
And
it's just that there's
a lot of companies. I look at the formulas and I know that they're good formulas, and I think they should move more toward, showing what's in their formula. And I like these new in-between ones where they're listing all their main active ingredients and the dosages, and they're taking their stims and stuff like that, and they're keeping that hidden. I don't mind that because the stim is something immediately. Yeah. If I take your product and you're claiming it's a great stim and I don't feel anything, I don't care what's in your product. You don't have to disclose it. I now know. But those other ingredients that we don't know because they're not affecting us that day by day, that should really be in there. I mean, this is not a food. We're not eating a donut. Nobody gives a damn how much dough or butter or flour or whatever is in a donut. We care about the macros maybe, but who the hell cares what's in it? Yeah. This is dietary supplements there to help us. So all those active ingredients we list, and then we boast about what each one of them does. Well, the consumer has the right to know. If they want to see that betaine is in there, or beta-alanine or whatever, and they just want to look it up and see how much of that should I put in my body, and then they go to their product and they don't know, that's not right. Yeah. In that aspect, we're more like a drug. Drugs must declare. What? Now, we're not a drug, but we are saying that we're doing something good for the body. Entenmann's doesn't say my donut's doing good for the body. Well, functional foods are now changing that a little bit, which is kind of cool. Yeah. But when you go out and you buy a Pop-Tart, what's it do? Good, nothing, right? Yeah. So who cares? how much flour is in there, right?
Yeah.
But if I tell you I'm putting huperzine in here as a nootropic, and then you want to go and research it, why not tell you that I'm putting the right amount in there? Why not show it? Why hide behind all this shit? I still, I don't believe in that still. And now we're starting to get this new level of pushback against it, where a lot of people are starting to attack me on it again. And they're saying, why be transparent? Just because you're transparent doesn't mean that somebody's not lying. So it's all bullshit. There's no prop blends in the product. It's fully transparent, but anybody can say that in bullshit. But that's not true, because there's a line that people forget about. If I have a prop blend and I underdose a bunch of ingredients and I don't tell my consumer about it, or somebody else doesn't, well, then you're kind of ripping off your consumer. You're deceiving them, but it's legal. The FDA allows it. The FDA calls it a proprietary blend. That's where the word comes from, the regulation. Matter of fact, they say you can use a fancy full name. Mm-hmm. They allow you to, call this blend a vein splitting muscle, whatever. They say that's a term, fanciful term you can use for it. So they allow you to they don't allow you to deceive, but they allow you to hide and do that. Yeah. But once you go to a transparent label, you're drawing a line in the sand. Yeah. And that line is a sand of legality. Now, if I put my ingredients there and I list my ingredient dosages and I don't put it in the product like everybody's telling me that people will do, it's not a matter of legally deceiving somebody. It's now illegal. Yeah. Not as many people are going to cross that line. Now I'm open to fraud, to civil suit, to criminal suit. That product is automatically adulterated, can be recalled back for as long as I've been manufacturing or shipping it to my consumer. So that line in the sand between a proprietary blend being able to legally deceive and a transparent product not being able to legally deceive. And if you do, and you lie like everybody's talking about it now, then you are a product that is criminal. And the majority of brand owners are not willing to take that step. Yeah. There's always that one or two bad apple that no matter what you're going to do, they're going to steal, rip off. But the majority of these guys aren't going to do that. So when you see them cross over from non-prop to transparent, there's a trust there that they're not breaking the law. And that's a big differentiator that a lot of people don't realize between props and non-prop blended products. It's not just a matter of trust. There's law, there's criminality, there's fraud, there's plaintiffs' attorneys, there's all kind of things that jump in at that point. So you damn well better make sure that transparent label is what it's supposed to be.
Kind of transition a little bit because we were talking a little bit around marketing, and a lot of people are using transparency and everything as a marketing term, but I kind of want to take this in a different direction because I recently spoke at a conference.
Well, let me save everybody a lot of time.
Yeah.
If you are building a brand and you go no prop blend, transparent and all that stuff, and you think that's your marketing gimmick, it's not going to work. Just don't do it. Do it because you want the product to be better. Do it because once you do get that customer in, like we said earlier, they're going to stay longer. Yeah. But you're going to fail using that. Yeah, you'll agree with that, right? Yeah, I think anybody's going to agree with that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I kind of wanted to mention around like influencer marketing and how in the industry, so I went and spoke at a conference, and the vast majority of the people in the audience were against influencers. They were from more of the scientific, academic side of the industry. And they were kind of saying, well, there's, they're looking at it as the bad apple type of syndrome. Like there's a lot of misinformation and these influencers don't know what they're talking about. And they're passing all this bad information out to individuals. And my counter argument was more around, there is, I can't argue that there isn't people that are saying stupid things. I think a lot of people say stupid things all the time. So even I say stupid things. So I think that that's a truth, but I think that there is a way to utilize influencer marketing effectively, regardless of what side of the industry you're on. Even if you are even an academic putting out a piece of literature or a research paper, you can utilize influencers to amplify that story outside of what you could do as yourself. Right. And I wanted to kind of bring up a point that you were mentioning yesterday and a little bit today around, you started kind of as an influencer. And I literally put out a video the other day that kind of rings true to what is kind of your side of the influencers, that basically, like I was saying, everybody's following the same game plan when they start a brand. And, they start with the product, they create a brand, they go through all these different steps. They launch a website, an Amazon listing, they start doing marketing through Facebook, they start doing, everybody's playing the same game. So then because of that, when you're trying to create attention, you're trying to create any type of influence down on Amazon ads, Facebook ads, Google, it becomes extremely costly because everybody's playing the same game. So all of your same tactics don't work as well because, whatever. So my point was more around, should you build influence first with the community, understand what resonates as you as a whole? And this is mostly speaking towards influencers, but also as around like you could build websites that are towards focuses, get an audience, figure out what they're interested in. You don't have to be like a human being singular, but building up an audience, understanding what that audience is into, understanding what like kind of supports you and whatever, it then gives you an idea of how to create products that are tailored to them, because they're also tailored to probably you, but they're tailored to the attention that you have, the influence that you have.
Right.
And it kind of brought me to think about like your story around, you know, martial arts. And you also had, you're telling me the story, and you could tell this better, but just in terms of like back with karate and everything, people weren't lifting weights as well. They were martial artists, and then there's people that worked out.
Right.
They didn't mix them together. And then you created your own little kind of movement around that, was able to market that, commercialize that on a different stage, in terms of like karate schools and creating that business. And then through all that, then you went into doing the supplements, but you already had built up like this influence in the market, you know, and then that's how you that was your first step into getting into the thing. So I guess thinking now, all these years later, what's your thoughts on influencer marketing? I mean, you were an original influencer. You still are an influencer. I know you took a time off where you didn't want to be all that much out in the limelight, but now you are again. So it's like, what's your kind of thought around influencer marketing?
I think it's really positive, but I think it's different than what first started, you know, when the internet got really big and everybody started to get 1 million, 2 or 3 million. And we all wanted to grab those people and pay them, and they didn't know anything about our product, but whoever was a follower of them, they put our product up there, not mine, but somebody said, I didn't do that. And everybody would buy that product. I think that's kind of gone.
Yeah.
You know, where you're paying these people these huge, I think it's more micro influencers now. There's a great book out called Fizz. Just a terrific book that I think anybody in this industry should read it. It's about real influencers, not these fake, Instagram, influencers, but that small percentage of the people, the mom and pop in your neighborhood who watch every movie. Now everybody listens to them when there's a new movie. And that's what traditional influencing is. It's that 10% of our society that influences the other 90% to purchase everything. And there's a great book out that teaches that core influence and how it's not all about money, and influencers don't want to get paid if they're true influencers. And you're almost insulting a lot of these people when you create these programs where you're paying them per influence. But those are the real core people that people listen to, not necessarily these big shots that have 1 million followers. Like Kim Kardashian, of course, everybody's going to buy her stuff, but that's not there anymore for the majority of it. And I think these micro influencers that we have, the people who really follow your product, and they only have 2 or 3 or 4,000 people, but they resonate with those 2 or 3, 4 people, trust what they say. I think that's where the future of it is. And you can look at brands like Pabst Blue Ribbon. That was all built up from almost going into bankruptcy by local influencers, not big, even Instagram, just local people. And they built a brand with no money from nothing all the way up to the iconic brand it is today by using micro influencers to do that. And I think that's where we all have to go now. That's what we're trying to do now. We're not trying to hire these big $2-3 million influencers, looking for these small influencers.
What do you think with some of these, even micro influencers, but probably on a little bit bigger than that scale, starting their own brands in the space? Do you think it's better for them to partner with a like-minded brand, or maybe create some type of partnership even with somebody, like say somebody that you love and you guys agree with a lot of things, want to partner with a brand with you? Like they want to utilize you for the things that you do really well, but there's a lot of things they do really well. They don't want to be necessarily attached to NutraBio. They'd like to create their own thing in conjunction with you. Do you what do you think about that movement? Do you think it's a positive movement? Do you think it's
both ways?
Yeah.
I mean, what was I? I did the same thing.
Yeah.
What does Daniel from Ghost do and all these guys? Yeah. They love what they're doing. They leave a company. They open their own brand. And what I would say to anybody is, if you have a huge following and you see supplements as a way to monetize your following, you don't give a fuck about the rest of the supplement industry, stay out of it, because you're going to do more harm than good. Your brand is going to go nowhere long term. You'll shoot up really high and then it's going to die out. If you're an influencer out there that has a huge following, you want to monetize it, but you actually love helping people, you love this industry, you love dietary supplements and what they can do for somebody, then I would say if you're an entrepreneur, go for it. If you're not an entrepreneur, hook up with another company. and try and, coordinate with them.
Yeah.
But I think too many people just look at supplements as how to monetize a following, and they don't give a damn about supplements, and they're in and out, and they do damage to the customer, they do damage to the industry. But there's a lot of great people that are in that same position that really care. Those are the ones who really should get in the industry and compete against me and everybody else and drive us all to work harder.
People that create influence and then they want to monetize it, like you can't really hate on them for that particular reason. I mean, I think I agree with you in the sense of if they're not going to help improve the industry, they should probably stay out.
Because it's so easy to get in, like you said. The barrier of entry to this industry is 144 products you can get somebody to make. But there's so much regulation, there's so much going on in this industry that you have to understand before you actually get into it. There's so much, majority of these people who just come in and create products, all they do is look at some other products in the market and copy them.
Yeah.
I mean, the craziest thing I ever heard was we were at Expo West like 3 years ago, and I was with my team training in a gym. And we saw this girl was in great shape. So I said, hey, we need some local reps. Go talk to her. So we talked to her. She happened to be at the show. And she worked for a big company, about a $300 million company, not a brand, but they have their own brand within their sales channels. And her and her friend happened to be the formulators for this brand that I won't mention who they are, but my whole team was there. Yeah. So we started talking to them. We're like, well, that's cool. What do you do? How do you figure out a new product? And their whole formulation strategy for this huge company was to go out to their competition, see what they're doing, and copy it. Now, you know how many bad products there are out there. You know how many non-déchet ingredients are out there. But that's what they did. They built this whole company on just copying every other's products. And I think that's the issue. Besides being able to get any manufacturer or some manufacturers to do small, in at 100, 144, something like that. They just go out and copy. They're not willing to do the research. They're not willing to get a good formulator who's going to put together, a really good product. And they could be just copying a bottle of shit that's out there instead of it's 50-50. It's pot luck what they do. And I think that's where they hurt their customer. They hurt their followers. If those are their followers and they want to influence those followers, they got to make sure they do it in the right way. They have to be sincere about this. It's not clothing. Kim Kardashian pushes some clothing out there. That's great. You wear it, you throw it out in 3 months. But all the things that we're doing, we're putting in our body, it could have good effect on a customer. It could have a bad effect. If it's a cheap garbage product, a lot of us just think, oh, so it didn't give them what they paid for. So what? But what was the negative? What did it give them that they didn't pay for? Yeah. What was in that product that wasn't supposed to? What contaminant was in there? How much extra of a stimulant did we put in there that could give them heart issues or something else? So it's not just what's missing because you want to be cheap and not put it in the product. It's what you're filling it with or how are you manufacturing that's going to hurt the customer. And that's my whole thing with people just jumping into this marketplace. Is it's not because, it's going to hurt the industry. Well, it's what's going to happen to their customer. Yeah. If they just want to monetize it, that's still okay. Yeah. That's business. That's entrepreneurship, right? I have nothing against that. But you damn well better make a commitment to that product line, and what you're going to give that follower of yours before you do that. Yeah. Because just getting some crap company to make you a Me Too product out there, all those people that are clinging on to you because they trust you and believe you, you're going to be doing a lot of harm to them.
Yeah, and I think if you have the right business partners that can handle that side of it, or maybe you understand formulations, products enough to know how to pick the right Me Too product. I think why I'm bullish a lot of times on these influencer-led brands is because they are very much differentiated, very much unique in the market because they're built around one person's personal brand and what they're all about. So it's very hard for another brand to go out and copy what that person is doing, because if they do, it's going to be easily seen that they're copying it, because you're actually copying a human that probably has hundreds of YouTube videos, hundreds of art. Like you can't speak like they speak. You can't have the same story when they were born, how they grew up, what influenced them growing up. The reasons why they say certain words the way they say. So like the way that I kind of see it from my side a lot of times is that I enjoy working with those types of brands if assuming all the other things are correctly managed, because you're able to position them in a very unique way to get growth in the industry very quickly, because you can stand out amongst other people, where the sea of sameness doesn't really apply to you, because if you have a product that at least meets the standards of the market and you build up a very unique brand off of that, then it's hard for other people then to come in and try to swoop up into that, because the people that are buying from you, they're buying from you because of a very personal reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the reason why people buy direct to consumer from brands is because usually they have a personal connection with the brand. They want you to know their name when they buy a product. If they've been a customer for 24 years, they want you to know who they are. And if they call you up and they say that, they want you to have all that history, because that they've connected with you from some way. And I think that that's where these brands have power. Now, staying power is another thing, longevity and all those sorts of things. Those are definitely fleeting brands. But I think if you...
But they don't have to be.
They don't have to be. They could be. I mean, there's a lot of brands.
And that's something that you could, if you're working with these guys, is I know you don't get into the formulation, and that's not your forte, but working with the right formulators and developing relationships with contract manufacturers, not because you're going to get a cut of it like somebody else might do, but because you want to know what manufacturers are the best in this country, what formulators can help, who knows regulation, because that's all part of this new product. If you're coming out with a new product line and you're an influencer and you have 20 million people and you're going to start a company that can go to 4 or 5 million in the first year, it's worth it to spend money on a good formulator to help you. Getting good legal counsel who knows the regulatory systems here, getting a good contract manufacturer, getting a consultant that's going to go in there and look over and do an audit on there. And that's where, if you have clients like that, we're putting that whole system together, that company can go long term, because now they're set up from the beginning not to crash just because the person who's in charge of it is popular right now. But if the product is really strong, and I'll give you Ghost as a perfect example. Guy's a brilliant marketer. He doesn't need transparent products like he has to get customers in. He does not need quality products like he has to get customers in. He could have just negated and forgot all about that and just did what he does best and built this huge lifestyle company, and would have probably right now be just as big as it is today. But Daniel is very bright. I talked to him when he was first starting. He knows that retention comes from product quality. And that honesty and transparency. So like I said before, you don't get customers because of that. You retain them because of that. So I think he's brilliant in what he's did, because his marketing is great at acquiring new customers, but he's backed up his company with transparent, good products, therapeutic dosages, and this guy's in it for the long term. And I think any influencer who follows that model can do really well. Another thing, we talk a lot about the barriers of entry, how easy it is to get in. It almost seems like a negative thing to try and chase people away. Like if I say, it's like, well, I don't want any more competitors coming in. But if you really look at the last 5 years, these new guys who have come in have pushed the boundaries on quality and efficacy. Not all of them, but a lot of the guys who are doing really, really well right now have really pushed this industry forward. And these are small guys who start from scratch. And I see a lot of those guys out there. So I don't want to push people away. If you really have a passion for this, come in the right way, and you'll do well.
No, I agree.
And you help the industry at the same time.
I think the internet for me has always been it levels the playing field. So if you are, say somebody came from a rough upbringing, you didn't have all that much money, you didn't go to Harvard, you didn't do all these types of things, you don't have the connections to be able to maybe put together a business plan and be able to raise $5 million in capital to go out and produce the next great chip company or something like that. There are people that have acquired skills. Maybe they're really good at selling. Maybe they're really good at formulating products. Maybe they just really are interested in that aspect. Or maybe they're really good at branding or digital marketing or whatever it is. The internet provides you the ability to start things at a much cheaper way, get it out at a global stage within a matter of minutes, and you're able to then prove yourself based around what you have inside of you, not how much money you have in your pocket. And though that creates a lot of maybe bad actors as well, I think it creates a lot of really good ones that would have never been in existence, that are pushing things to a different level because they think differently, they act differently, whatever. And those are the people that ultimately, from outside of the space, they come in and disrupt the space and help everybody move to a different direction. It's not the people that are just the same people in the circle that just keep creating and creating and creating and creating. They're just replicating what they've done over their career. I think the internet and all these barriers of entry that are closing, especially if it's, there's contract manufacturers that do low runs that are good contract manufacturers. Oh, yeah. They follow the rules. They do everything they need to do.
But if they're doing runs of 200-300, they can't make money. You got to watch for that.
Yeah,
I don't believe it, because there's so much tech. By law, we have to test the raw materials. Yeah. Everybody looks at me and says, "Oh, look at Glazier. He's testing every batch." We don't have to test every batch by law, but you have to test them. You have to test your product at the end. So everybody gives me all this credit because I'm testing my product. Well, guess what? The regulation is you have to test. So when you're running a small batch and you're doing, like when I was talking with Armada the other day, great contract manufacturer, and he understands it. He's talking about his QA department now spends 80% of its time just by doing his customers auditing him to make sure he's doing the right thing for them. So that's the problem. Now, white label is different because there are some companies out there that create 20 formulas. They can go through all of whatever has to be done for CGMP, and it's done perfectly, and they're just dropping your label on it, on a Me Too product. So there's a difference. But quality, if you're getting 144 products from a contract manufacturer, and it's your own developed formula, I would be wary. And I know someone's going to attack me tomorrow on this.
No,
but you cannot go through all the regulations and do that.
And I won't. And I definitely think that you have a point for the majority of them, but
And Brandon Armada said the exact same thing. He agreed 100%. You just can't do it. There's too much shit too many hoops we have to run through.
Yeah, I think
sanitizing a room costs me probably $300-400. How am I going to sanitize a room for $300?
I mean, I think from a generalized statement, you are on the money. I think that there's outliers in everything that have figured out certain efficiencies to whatever, but also understanding pricing models to be able. So if somebody say, you create a pre-workout for $12 and you do 2,000 units, great. But if somebody wants to do 144 of the same formula, it's going to cost them $20 a unit or something like that. If they price it at 20, then odds are they're understanding there's a ton of other costs they have to account for, and that's why they're charging somebody an extra $1,000 a run for that type of product. If the customer's willing to pay the $20 because they understand, hey, I need a starting point. I can't start, you know what I mean? I have to start some way. I'm going to start at $20 because that's the guy, he needs to make money on all of his side of things. I need to start somewhere. If I prove myself, I know I'm going to create more volume, so I'm fine. There's those types of
I'm just saying you got to be weary as a new brand coming in to make sure that you're getting.
Yeah. So my point is, if you're going for 144 and you're worried about driving your costs down, and you find somebody that's going to make a product that's the same price as somebody that's going to make it for 2,000 units or 5,000 or 10,000 units, you need to be wary on that case because there's no way for that person to make money then.
Right.
Like unless they are somehow bankrolled and they're thinking about more of like, if I bet on enough of people and I get the right winners and long term, like a venture capitalist type of mentality. Like if I'm going to invest in 100 new brands, I need 2 of them to win. But if I get 2 to win, I'm good.
They're not venture capitalists.
No. But I'm saying,
manufacturers, they got to make money.
I know. I'm like hoping and praying that somebody has that model, but they don't. I've talked to enough of them. Nobody thinks that way. Even the biggest ones, when I even try to have them talk about taking on certain smaller brands, even if it's outside of their portfolio, they're like, no, it's too risky. I'm like, but this one's going to win. This one's going to be your next $100 million brand. They're like, have them come back to me when they're 20.
And as soon as they get to $5 million, they go off to another contract manufacturer. So, I would say that even for all these other brands, when they're going to price stuff out, and they go to a good contract manufacturer and the pre-workout's $10 and somebody's offered to them at $7. You don't just take the lowest price. There's a reason why it's 7 versus 10. Yes, there are efficiencies in manufacturing. Yes, there's efficiencies in buying large quantities of raw material, but there is a point where that stops or that return is negligible. They're saving 20 cents per kilo instead of $3 per kilo. It doesn't affect the product so much. If you own a brand right now, you have to qualify that manufacturer. You got to make sure, and I'm pro contract manufacturing. I manufacture my own because I want to control it, but I'm not against it. This industry does not exist without contract manufacturing. There's no way an entrepreneur gets in right now and tries to figure out the regulatory environment that we have right now. You're going to be breaking the laws for 5 years before you get anywhere. So contract manufacturing is the backbone of this industry right now. But you got to make sure that you're not looking for the cheapest product because you want the highest margin, because you're going to end up at a product that's going to be below value, and you're going to end up in a position where you're have a possibility of recall, like the situation we don't have to talk about right now. So, it's incumbent on everybody in this industry to really know what they're doing.
Everybody's getting more efficient, and they are, contract manufacturers getting more efficient. Everybody's getting through the whole system. The pricing of products are getting very similar. The ingredient lists are becoming very similar. The products that are getting created, the labels that are getting created, everything starts to look like, as a consumer, it's hard to know the differences. Like if you walked into a GNC or a vitamin shop and you saw a line of pre-workouts, you'd be hard pressed to understand which one stands out from the rest of
Possible,
them.
right?
So for me, though, like I'm deep into it every single day, so I can tell, you can tell, but we're talking about so many decimal points away from 1% of people that can see the differences. So you start to think of, we talk about the sea of sameness, we talk about, this commodification, everybody kind of moving to this common denominator. But I think that what I'm kind of bringing around this commodification, we're bringing around the idea of like, there's these kind of acceptable limits of product pricing now. Even the best products and the worst products are within a small percentage of, as an example, of like pre-workout. $35 is usually the top end. You got on Amazon, you got $24-$25 is like your low end of like a normal end. So you got this $10 spread. The best ones and the worst ones are all within a $10 spread. And then you have products that should, the top end product should be fetching probably 49 or 50, 60. And a competitor did go out and test the upper bounds of that limit. Do you think there's space in the industry for more like premium products? Because I kind of think about this a lot of times with like fashion and, there's certain, or even cars or whatever, there are premium top level luxury goods categories. In our space, it doesn't exist all that much, or at least at the level that's an acceptable there isn't this category of products where somebody goes, well, I want the luxury. I want the Ferrari of pre-workouts. Like if you wanted to do that, you could find it, maybe, but it's still within it's probably going to be priced at $39.99.
Right.
And that product is not the Ferrari because somebody had to work within a margin constraint of $39.99. They know they can't go any higher than that. Like, do you think there's a market, or do you think it's getting to the point where it's going to become a market?
I think there's a market. I think the problem is that a lot of brands don't know who their market is. I know who my market is. I know what they'll pay for it, and I go toward that market. But when you're out there and you're new and you're just trying to get anybody you can, you look at this race toward the bottom. You look at everybody else. Oh crap! This guy's doing a sale. This guy's at 29. I can't go to 28. And that's what a lot of companies do. I think as an industry, we need a lot more confidence in what we're doing.
Yeah.
The brand you're talking about came out at $69.99, and everybody hammered them. And I defended them 100% because when you look at pre-workouts that are these all-in-one pre-workouts that are fully dosed, fully transparent, but not, they've got everything. They've got the stim in it, they got the nootropic in it, they got nitric oxide and everything in it. It's a 25 to 30 gram blend. It's an all-in-one everything. Those are all selling at 34 to 39. And there's no margin. Yeah. We're all not making money. That product should be up at $59, $69. And without that, the industry can't really develop and grow. I think we need more confidence to charge what the product is worth, or exactly what you said, we can't put a worthwhile product on the market. Because I can tell you, we do a pre-workout, that's not a loss leader, but it's close to it. You've got 28 grams of active ingredients in there, and you're trying to sell for what everybody else is. It doesn't work. Yeah,
and it's unfortunate because it's the second biggest category of sports supplements outside of protein. Right. So if you're not able to make margin, you're not able to make margin on protein already. So you can't make margin on the second most popular product because of the pricing constraints. You get into this kind of issue. And I know that a point that I've constantly kind of brought up around not having a premium kind of category of products is mostly around that our industry isn't well capitalized. The example of, Cellucor, by putting out that product, they can because they have free cash flow of a size of a business that regardless if it fails or not, if it's the inventory ages on shelf, whatever it is, they don't need to fire sale it. They don't need to act erratic. They don't need to do anything. They can establish this product category, this level of premium product category, and allow it to see what it does. Like they have time in market because they know we don't need to sell through this because we need to make payroll. We know, and that's not the case in the vast majority of the brands.
I can guarantee they're not expecting that to do anywhere near what their other products. They're expecting to maybe pick up a very small niche market with that, so they're not expecting a lot. Or it could be just the whole, like you said yesterday.
Oh, like the fuck you product, to see,
just to show the industry.
We're sick of you talking shit about us, so we're going to create a product.
Yeah, absolutely. But they did it, so you got to get credit for it.
And I'm not advocating it because I'm definitely more from a boot strap mentality. Like in the term of how I normally work, I like frugality. To me is like the ultimate form of creativity. Like if you're frugal, that is that if you think about it in that sense, is that's like the ultimate creativity. If you could think about it, not just go to the easiest way of spending money, like that's creative. But I don't want this to seem like, people should go out and just raise capital really quick, and they should go out and try to find investors and raise for $10 million. But I would say that there are a lot of companies in our space that are great businesses that are growing exceptionally fast, have really good profits, like can internally run their business on profits, but should raise capital because it would help them take chances to build out things like Sitecore's doing. So it's not necessarily always the needing to go raise capital. Sometimes, I do it a lot on food and beverage. I get people coming to me around and I'm like, you can operate fine within your space, but that's not the point. You need to have capital so you can take chances on building out other things, building out.
And you need to get that capital when you'll get capital, not when it's too late.
So a lot of times when I think in our space, for whatever reason, is that most people are raising capital too late in their cycle. They're getting to the point where they're raising capital because they want to take money off the table. They want to leave the company. Like, oh, I want to leave. They're not.
Or they're in trouble.
Yeah, or they're in trouble, and they don't want to think like, oh, well, I'm a $50 million company. I'm growing at 300% year over year. Now I need to go raise capital, not because I need it to run my business, because I think that I'm going to want to go take a chance, and I want to have a $10 million buffer to take that chance. And I think that investors will take the chance on me because I've already proven that I can do this pretty well. And then that kind of elevates you to level where like a Cellucor can do it without having to go out raise capital on that idea. They could just go, we have the space to do this. But that's not the case a lot in our industry. And I would advocate that there's a lot of companies that could do it the right way, not the wrong way. I'm not saying like go sell 1,000 units and then try to go raise $10 million, because then that's the bad actors, because then they're going to go and put money in the bad places. They're going to go do erratic things still because they haven't even proven that they're like a legitimate business.
But I think it's a lot of ways that people in the industry get in trouble, because when you take a company that's doing $1 million a year, once they get to like 5-10 million, the whole structure changes. Yeah. They've got to redo their whole company. From that to, let's say, 10 million, when you hit to 50 million, you're a whole new company. Yeah. Everything changes, from your accounting to your infrastructure, everything. And if you're not ready for that change, and all of a sudden you're at that 50, you get to 100, and you get to, every time you hit these certain levels, everything changes in the company. And if you can't move with that change, you're gone no matter how much money. And a lot of companies don't realize that. They hit those plateaus where they should be going crazy. And that's where they need the financing to get to that next level, to recreate the infrastructure, the accounting, everything that they need to do, but they don't do it. And then they get in trouble. And when they could have got their funding and could have raised money, they didn't.
It's too late.
And then later on, when they're behind, they can't.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of companies fail from success because of that. They just don't realize that these levels are just stop levels. And you come from a much bigger industry that you're working in now, food and beverage and stuff like that. To get from a $50 million to a $200 million company it's easy in sales. Yeah. It's not easy in behind the scenes infrastructure.
We were talking yesterday around at a time before Amazon kind of came to prominence. You were selling a lot of stuff on eBay, and you were like positive on eBay, which I agree. During that phase when you're talking about eBay was great, but we kind of transitioned into thinking about Amazon, and I know we were both very positive about Amazon as a whole. I mean, obviously there's things that we probably don't like about how it interacts with the supplement industry, but what do you think about just the Amazon effect within the supplement industry? Do you think that it has helped more than hurt, or do you think that there's, you see it from an angle, you're like, I'd love if Amazon did this, or, I guess I'm just kind of curious, because I always think a lot more bullish than a lot of people on Amazon, because I've seen it from the point of creating a lot of millionaires in our industry. And I'm like, if that wasn't there, those people wouldn't exist, and that's a great thing. But I also understand, I've worked with a lot of companies that literally have sat in boardrooms with and said, this is the reason why we're failing. I have to bite my tongue because it's not the reason why they're failing, but I think that a lot of people in our industry have that thought of, they have killed our industry, not helped our industry.
I mean, it's a little of everything. We talked about it yesterday. It's like comparing, years ago where all business came to Main Street America. All of a sudden these huge malls opened up. Main Street across America went out of business. Every Main Street was gone. Now it's coming back because they're changing it. So a lot of people have that thought process that that
changes
Amazon
that.
is like these huge 2 million square foot malls that popped up out of nowhere, and they're destroying Main Street, and that's true. But there's a way to avoid that by adapting to it.
Yeah.
You know, if they're going to play the same game as Amazon, they're going to lose, but they have to adapt and find other ways around it. So it's not really the reason of failure is not because Amazon's there, it's because you haven't learned to adapt. And Amazon's not the only thing that's causing anybody to adapt. There's a lot of different things in the industries that happen annually or every once in a while that we have to change to, we have to adapt to. So I don't look at Amazon as good or bad. You know, I think there's great opportunities out there. You know, I know of companies, and we just talked about this, that are doing $30+ million on Amazon in 2 years. They have a decent product, commodity product, nothing special. Nobody's ever even heard of them.
Yep.
And there's a lot of companies like that. So it's a lot of opportunity for people to jump in and not do all this other stuff that we've got to do to build our companies and be, you know, good off the bat. Where I think Amazon, I don't like what Amazon does is they do push the price down on everything. So if you're a brand and you can't control that, you lose the integrity of your pricing. You know, we want to go to Amazon, they wanted to buy our product and sell it, but they wouldn't contract with us to keep our map. They told us outright, no, we're the first. Our computers are going to drop it first. And if you have a product that needs integrity and it needs price integrity, you need to make that integrity of that price solid, because otherwise you have to reformulate your product. You don't want to do that. Amazon does that to you. And again, maybe not Amazon's fault.
Yeah.
Maybe the brand owner's fault, because they just want to make as much money as they can, so they let everybody sell on Amazon. Before they know it, their $39 product is selling for $22.99, and it's out of control, and they can never get it back. And it happens to a lot of brands out there.
Yeah, I mean,
so there's negative in there. I don't blame anything really at Amazon. I'm saying it's changing the environment. And I'm not even saying I was smart enough to understand that. I was in late. Yeah. So I lucked out. We weren't in Amazon in the early days. Well, we were really early when we were selling our own stuff.
Yeah.
But when this whole thing happened, we got in late.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we had 20 vendors out there that were selling, and they had sub-vendors and other vendors out there, and they were cheating. Again, not Amazon now. Now you're talking about the Amazon vendors cheating. Yeah. And our price almost took a dive until we fired every one of them. And we took $1 million in hits off of that just to get rid of everybody, because we had to control the price. So I think there's a lot of negative and positive that's caused by Amazon, but as a brand owner or a store owner or whatever segment of this industry you're in, you just have to adapt. You have to learn it. If you're not on top of it, you'll crash quick.
Yeah, I always think about when somebody does say, you know, there's a negative to Amazon. I always quickly circle it to around Amazon exposes bad business practices. Mm-hmm. Like if, as the case, like most in the industry don't like Amazon because they believe that it facilitates the race to the bottom.
Right.
But it's not actually Amazon that's facilitating the race to the bottom. It's the bad pricing or bad sales model that you have within your business, and not actually watching a lot of the transactions, what you're doing. As an example, like say you're working with a distributor, that distributor, you know, says, hey, I got a guy on the hook for 200. And you go, well, he usually picks up 24, but he's selling really good. Mm-hmm. You know, can I get him a 4+1? Sure. That's a great 200 orders. I need that. Let's do it. So you do that, and you don't think anything of it. Well, you know, the guy does sell some in his store. He has some stuff. He gives it some time, but then he realizes, you know what, let me put some of this on Amazon. Well, now he has a lower wholesale price than any of your other customers. Mm-hmm. So then that guy goes, all right, well, I'll be a good actor at first. I'll put it at the price that I'm supposed to. I'll see what happens. But you know what? Now I need some money to pay for other products. Mm-hmm. I need to get this off my balance sheet. So then he knows he has more margin than anybody else, so he drops it down. Now, Amazon, obviously on the seller side, it's an open marketplace. It's all about, you know, how it works. They're not going to change anything. But say you also sell to Amazon as a wholesaler, Amazon acts as a price matcher. So like they're not going to lose the buy box against the seller. So then because you had a bad actor, because your sales guy out in the Northeast wanted to make a little extra commission, and you incentivized him off of that commission, he's pulling a trigger and doing something that he doesn't realize also is hurting like the national price integrity of the thing. So I always kind of put that and circle around to people because it's, this isn't really a case about the story you're saying, but just around, I think that Amazon is extremely positive because it helps you understand inefficiencies in your own business. It helps you expose things that maybe you didn't realize were out there because they've always been hidden by something that wasn't national and easy to do, and whatever. Where if you had a guy selling only up in the Northeast before, and he didn't have access to something to sell globally, it didn't matter if you gave him better pricing because he was only going to sell in the Northeast. What's that going to affect somebody in California? It doesn't make any difference. So you still are fine. But now he literally just a few clicks of the mouse and he's selling. And now the guy in California is saying, well, what the heck? I want the same pricing. I want the same pricing. What's going on here?
It's also a whole new learning curve out there.
Oh, yeah.
All these big sellers, they have subsidiaries.
Yep.
Amazon does not give you that information. So you'll see somebody selling your product. There's no way to find who that is. Now, you can't figure out who it is. You're not selling to them. Now you got to learn what's that whole process. And like you said, the example you gave, if we have a store out there that's doing $1,100 a month, and all of a sudden they put in a $3,500 order, that order gets penned in, and one of our sales reps will go to that store to see if there was actually a store there, first of all. And we've been to dozens of them that were warehouses, so we know they're not stores. They know it's going directly to Amazon. So you've got to now build an infrastructure to figure this out. We'll ship overseas. At first we found out, okay, it's not going overseas. We do, full container load. We find it on Amazon. Yeah. So then we start setting up, okay, we're going to track it to the port and make sure it leaves the port. Then we find out that doesn't matter as much because some of these Amazon sellers will sell at a 5% end margin. So they'll ship it to another country, turn it around, ship it right back. I've lost all control of it. I don't know that. Yeah. So the more we learn about it, the more tricks of the trade. I mean, we're doing stuff like inking it with invisible inks and doing all kinds of stuff to try and figure this out. It's a big thing. It's not as easy as everybody thinks it is. Because if you want to control that price structure of yours, if you don't care, it doesn't matter. Just let it all go out there. You have a $40 product. It's really a $20 product. So that 20% spread, you don't give a damn where it goes in there. So go ahead. Let everybody do what they want. But if you have a product where you have to hit that price range and your retail price is real and you have a little bit of play in there, then Amazon takes a lot of monitoring. Lot of monitoring. We have full-time people that are just watching that price, going after people, searching what's going on, and figuring out where we're getting nailed.
Taking this a few steps further, just so people can kind of think about this a little bit more and why it's important to actually care about it, is that I work in food and beverage. There's a lot less margin, a lot less like unit economics within there. Like, you have a lot less, like if you're selling a $39.99 pre-workout and, whatever it is, there's more margin dollars within there to play with. Now, if you're selling something that is, $7.99 and you only have like a, $2 margin within there, it starts to then really create pressure on making sure all of those things are aligned correctly. And as an example with Amazon, they have, and every one of the marketplaces have this, but Amazon kind of coined this term. It's called a crap list. It's an acronym for can't realize a profit. And basically when you get onto this list, Amazon will no longer sell your product anymore. So as we're kind of mentioning about like the commodification, how things are kind of pressing down, eventually you get to this point where you don't really have the margin dollars to be able to just say, who cares anymore? You then have to basically watch everything to a T, and then you might be on this crap list where you no longer are able to sell this product on Amazon anymore. They're basically saying, well, we can't make money on this. You have to then sell it as a seller. We're not going to sell it as a vendor anymore because we can't make money on a wholesale. So then you're in the point of then not having access to one of the biggest e-commerce opportunities out there because you're not willing to do the work on the price side. And I'm saying that it doesn't affect 99.9% of the brands in our space right now. But as the years go on, maybe this becomes 80%, 70%, 50% of the brands have to watch out. You know what I mean?
But as a supplement company, would you recommend they allow Amazon to take over their product and sell it, or do you want the brand owner to be the owner of it and sell it through Amazon?
I would say that, there's definitely cases for both sides, but I would say the vast majority of supplement companies should be only selling as a seller. They have better access to better controls. They can put in a lot of other things that would help them control the system better on that size. Now, if you are Glambia, you sell a vendor because you have a person that you work with, a human being at Amazon. You actually work with them. You go meet with them constantly. They go and work on things together, innovations, different promotional things, different real estate that you don't have access to at the level of your business. They do. Now you want to have that personal relationship because not only is Amazon, but Amazon now is going to be, is Whole Foods Market, is also going to be a grocery store, is also a convenience store, is also, like as they grow, you would like to have a direct relationship at the size of business of a Glanbia or a Nutrabolt or something. Now, all the other brands where you don't really have like all that much like extra things to care about, you're just a number. You're going to be dealt with from a computer. Like no human being, you won't talk to a human being unless you literally spend all your days going through customer service trees.
So we must be doing pretty decent. We have somebody to talk to.
So it's one of those things where for the vast majority of brands, you're better off just being a seller because you have more control over all the pricing. Like you set the price.
Right.
If you're the only seller on that listing and you don't also sell as anybody else, if it's $29.99, it could be $29.99 forever. Nobody's ever going to add that unless another seller comes on the listing. And then if you have your brand registry and all those kind of things, you can knock them off and do what you need to do.
And that's one of the other things we were talking earlier about whose fault is this? Like everybody blames Amazon. And brick and mortar will look at that too because they're trying to sell a product at 40 and it's on Amazon for 30. Well, it's not Amazon's fault in that aspect. It's the brand.
It's the brand's
brand
fault.
is not controlling the price. They're whoring it out to anybody who will take it. And now they've had brick and mortar build it for years, maybe even start the whole company through brick and mortar. They convince these stores to get them to where they are, and then they don't control the price. They let it go to everybody and anybody out there. You have a term for that.
Stack it high and let it fly.
And so it goes back to the brand owner too. It's not necessarily, it's always their fault, but sometimes it's this whole learning curve with Amazon coming in, and sometimes they just don't give a damn anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think that we've talked a lot around the pricing part of it, but I think also it helps create a feedback loop that is super unique now. Like before, if you wanted to, say you're launching a new product and maybe you went through all the steps of doing market research, you had people come in and taste things, not only just the people in your staff, but like you had outside people come in, you had different, kind of things you put together. I would say the majority of brands in our space don't do that, but if say you did that, that's the steps you had to go through if you were going through market research on a new product. Now you can hypothetically create a product, put a shit right to market so you get feedback on your pricing level, your flavors, your label, like everything, because somebody's going to be giving you Amazon reviews right off the bat. Like
you're a totally virtual company with no expense, no warehousing, no anything.
So it takes it to another level where like it provides a feedback loop that's super unique. I always tell clients I'm working with this that even if you were the owner of the company, you should be looking at the Amazon reviews because not necessarily from a singular one. Like you don't read one and go, oh, I better change something. But you look at it from an aggregate and you go, you know what? 30% of people are saying my product is too sweet. Maybe my product is too sweet because, it's not necessarily that any of those people know each other. So these are all individual people saying, hey, this is a little bit too sweet. Maybe then that's the catalyst to help you go out and maybe do some market research or but it provides you an indicator that helps you. It's like this data source we never had before. Like it was, if you wanted to go Joe's Supplements and say, hey, how's my product selling? Yeah, I sold 2 last week. Like, can I pull a report? What have we done in the last 90 days? Yeah, I don't know, man. It's selling okay. What people say when you sampled it out? Yeah, people are drinking it. You never really got actually anything like that was useful to you to actually make adjustments on your product. Where today, literally, you have this opportunity where literally people are willing to speak their mind and whatever. And I'm surprised how many people don't utilize it in the correct way of actually thinking like this is a very good data point to base off of for product development, or not only your products, but do it with other people's products. Take a look at your 5 competitors, your top competitors, or even, hey, I'm thinking about going into plant-based proteins. I don't have a plant-based protein. Let me go look at what the top 10 brands are doing. And then let's look at not just, okay, what are they doing from the way their label looks or, they have chocolate flavor. Like, also, let's look at the reviews of like, what's the sentiment of the customer? How do they feel about these 10 products? Which ones are actually the ones that are getting the most positive about the attributes? And then maybe I can take all that data together and actually create a product that's more in line with the category, but also, what's true to my brand, but like put that as an element of it.
Right.
I just, to me, like,
if there's enough reviews on there, it makes a lot of sense because I think a lot of us will get one bad review somewhere and we'll all...
Yeah, it's always 100 good and 1 bad. You just go to the bad one.
And you just haven't seen the one bad one. You call a whole marketing team together and everybody's like, holy shit, somebody said it was too salty. You're like, yeah, that was one person.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos. Would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.